Not. Well, it's showing my stream health as good, but it's not actually showing me the video. There we are. All right. So I'll go tell everybody that I'm streaming. And we'll just shrink this for a minute and go over here and paste it in here and shrink that and all that stuff. Yeah. Doing game dev, streaming game dev. Gonna work on ragged debris stuff. Exclamation point to make it sound like I'm doing something even vaguely interesting. Hurrah. I'll pop on over here. Paste it here. And then I'll go to here. How exciting was that? All right, so we're up and running. What we're going to do today is I'm going to try and make the ragged edge of the debris look like an elbow etchy came in. Hello. Look like the ragged edge of debris. It's a technique that I have to learn. It's not one that I could find any tutorials on. Obviously, this applique isn't going to do it. I'm going to need to actually, you know, with modeling, model in some kind of ragged edge. This is made a little bit more difficult because I need the edge to be burned or something similar. You need to have it look like it got damaged and it's not just a more flat hull. But we'll work on the shape first, and then we'll work on the hull afterwards. So I'm going to just go ahead and look up ripped sheet metal on Google. And we'll take a look at some of these little bits. And apparently it is a lot of people fake decaling their cars with ripped sheet metal. There's some of the real stuff there. No, that's just surfacing. I really need to see something there. That's... I mean, all it is a really, really rough, ragged edge. But the problem is that really, really rough, ragged edges take a lot of polys. I guess it's probably okay because that will go away as I do LOD work. So I guess we'll just try it with a lot of polys as our first order of business today. First things first, we're going to have to actually open it up. All right. So this is where we were, and these are the edges that I got just by clipping real sharp. What we're going to do is duplicate this guy, and then, hold on. I've got to adjust my mic because I can't see through it. Give me a moment here. There we go. We're going to duplicate this guy, and then we're going to try to, we're going to duplicate this guy, and then we're going to duplicate this guy, and then we're going to try to edit these edges to look a little bit more like rough material. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to extrude out some rough material, and we're going to try and apply a modifier to just that. And the way to do that is, actually this is exactly what we want, except for we don't want the interior. I wonder if there's any way to just deselect. Well, I guess it's probably easier just to do it manually. Nope, see that? That's the problem with doing things using the Alt select, is you get random things that don't make very much sense. There we are. There we go. All right, so that's wrong. All right, there we are. And that's the actual border of our ragged edge. And what we're going to do for testing purposes is duplicate that border as its own set of verts and then just extrude out like this. Now the extrusion is damaged, but we can recalculate the whole thing. Boom. And then we can figure out exactly what we want to do with it. And I think that the best thing for us to do right now is to extrude in and then extrude back. And this is just to test this out, so, you know, it's not a big deal. But what we're going to want to do is create a vert group. Boom, boom. I guess I can just remove that. can't remove while I'm editing. Oh, I was removing the wrong thing. That's okay. So what we're going to want to do is assign this to our vert group. And you can see how we assign it as a weight group of 1. We're actually going to want to take this edge here and assign it with a weight group that's much lower, like, say, 0.2. And I don't remember how to visualize vert groups. I can't remember how to visualize them. But in this case, that's okay. We're not doing anything too complicated. But in general, I would like to be able to visualize them. So what we're going to want to do here is somehow make it ragged, and that's going to be first a massive subdivision, but only to the vert group that we want. No? I thought there was a vert group for every single... I guess not. That's a shame. I know that most of the modifiers allow you to just do it by vert group, but I guess subdivide isn't one of them. So we'll just separate it out and try it again. We're going to want to do it with a simple subdivide and up it to 3, 3, and that ought to give us a lot of elements. I'm not sure what that does. And then we're going to want to try and create a ragged edge. I don't remember the best way to do this, but I know that there is some kind of ragged edge element. So vertex group. So what we can do here with our edge is we can try and get it to ripple. Unfortunately, I don't see any sign of it rippling. Okay, so you can see that there is something happening. Do I have the wrong I have the wrong object? No, this is the object. So you can see that it is doing something, but the something is very small. Ah, there we are. So that's one kind of ragged wave. And we can adjust this to try and make it more interesting in various ways, like so. And then what we can continue to do is add more wavelets just by duplicating this entire shape key, like that. Except for what we do is we can just change the exact nature of the wave. And for some reason, it's not really vibrating on the other axis, and I'm not really sure why. But I guess that's probably the z-axis, and it's just panicking, which would be really stupid. I wish it wouldn't do that, because I need to be able to freely do my wave motion stuff in order to make this work. So that creates some ripples, but it doesn't really create the ragged edge I was looking for. What I need to do is have this offset by normal a random amount, and I don't believe that there are any modifiers that will offset by a normal or random amount. We could do an explode, but that's like procedural simulation, which isn't really what I want. No. This is a little bit rough. I don't know how to make it just do ragged edges. I'm a little surprised there doesn't seem to be any ragged edge command here. No. Tattered? No. I don't think there's anything that I need here. I think that I would have to manually make every single ragged edge ragged, which seems like a serious annoyance. Well, let's clear out the waves. We'll leave the subsurface on. Actually, we'll apply it. There we are. And then we will just set this as smoothed faced with an auto smooth of 30. And then we'll try and turn this into some ragged edges just with some attempts. First things first, let's hide this set of verts just so that we don't deviate the core line very much. And then we'll just, start to make some random motions. So, I don't think that this is a very good way to do it, but I can't think of a better way to do it. And if anybody has any better ways, even if you're watching this later, just let me know, because this is obviously dumb, and it would be better not to have to do it like this. When it comes to modeling, I know that you can do a lot if you are willing to spend the time to manually set things up properly. And I could manually model every bit of the ragged edge. But one of the watchwords I need is speed, because I am a solo dev and I don't have very much free time. So I need to get it to model as fast as possible, and that's why I need every trick in the book. Even if it doesn't look quite right, it's more important that it be fast to create in the first place. So that's not a bad thing. I could probably do it with some... let's just take a look at some sculpting here. Have we got a sculpt brush that's capable of doing this? I got a rotation sculpt brush. Will that be able to pull this off? Let's bring the radius way down, like 30. I notice I did not turn topology on. It's stuck with the topology that we started with, and that's kind of the point. And this is like a very simple brush that we're using in a similar way to what we were doing before, but I think our brush is set a little bit too wide, so we'll just bring it down some more here. Maybe a little too small. Can I have like a 15 or an 18? How about an 18? Come on. That was odd. I think it's not spinning on the axis. I think it's spinning on here. Is this thing allergic to the z-axis? That would be dumb. But I think it might be. Oh my gosh, it seems to be allergic to the z-axis. How dumb is that? Why would a twist thing be allergic to the z-axis? Just make it based on the camera axis. Jesus. Okay, that's not going to work. It's interesting how unreliable this twist brush is. Well, that's a little bit more ragged. So now what I'd like to do is go inside, grab this, or even here, and then just scale it up. And what we'll get is a ragged edge that goes outwards. See? So what happens when we unhide things, and then we can reattach it to the original. There we go. And then what we can do is make it so that the mesh elements have the same material as their theoretical parent. Oh wow, that's a lot of extra faces I've got there. That's fine though. Come on. Come on. And then we'll set that up as a highlight material. Have to do the same thing here with these massive sets. Can I just Alt and then drag? No, that would be too easy. And the other one, guess, doesn't get hit. Hurrah! All right, so we have a couple options as to what we want to do with the inside. For the inside, we could change it to another material. That's probably not a bad idea, so let's go ahead and do that. Change it to machinery. There we are. And now we have what looks like a ragged edge. Now the problem with this ragged edge is that, as you can see, it just suddenly begins. And what I'd really like for it to do is sort of have a variable beginning. And the way we can do that is simply by dragging these with connected turned on. And then we can use the only the elements that are there we are. Only the elements that are actually we don't want to drag it on a random axis. We want to make sure we drag it on the axis that matters, so we don't accidentally move off in another unexpected way. But this will give us a little bit of that ragged feel. That'll get us a nice, hopefully a nice sort of uneven puncture, because that's what we're looking to get here. You can see we've got a part of our system inside. If we looked at that around, you can see what that is. What we're going to want to do is just move up this element, and the only reason for that is just because it's not in a very good space. We'll just scale Z for an easy job of it. And let's just keep dragging. Now here you can see this one just rips straight off with no, doesn't merge in very well at all. It's like just suddenly a massive sideways rip. And I think that's just because of the way that I originally extruded these things. I didn't extrude them along the original surface. I extruded them just kind of arbitrarily and ended up creating a slightly odd situation where they're not all pointed straight. See how that one is aligned with the surface, but this one points straight out. That's not necessarily bad. It does reflect that there might be some directional forces in play, but it's not going to look good if it's universal like that. So let's go ahead and hide this set of faces so that they aren't affected, and then we can just go through and try to bring these into some semblance of a ragged edge that we can believe in. We got a couple of little pieces here and there that are popping out, but it doesn't really matter. Now this is my first time trying to make something like this, so I am not at all sure what the best method for doing it is. This is probably not it. If you've ever had to model debris and have any good advice, let me know, because I definitely would like to hear more about it. That didn't work. There. And then we can unhide everything, and we got it back. And you can sort of see what I'm going for. We got some ripples here that look a little bit forced, because you can really see all along the plane. There's a lot of options as to how to soften those ripples. One is that we could use a shrink wrap modifier, and we might as well try that just to see whether or not I can get it to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pop this out again, and then we're going to duplicate it, because I don't want to accidentally modify one of the things I need. There we are. Just move it aside for a bit. And then here, what we're going to do is we're going to go in and assign some verts to various groups as before. But this time we're going to do it in the opposite direction. So this is going to be our shrink wrap group. We're going to go ahead and assign this with a weight of 1. Chaboom. And then these guys, we'll give them a weight of 0.6. Shaboom. And then these guys, we'll give them a weight of 0.2. Shaboom. And then we'll go over here into the modifiers and add a shrink wrap modifier. Am I just blind? Shrink wrap. There it is. I am just blind. It happens. So obviously, oop, no, don't shrink wrap to yourself. That doesn't make any damn sense. There we are. So when you have a shrink wrap, you can give it an offset and stuff like that. 0 is probably best. We can try and keep it above the surface or the nearest surface point. We can use a project instead, but the project will produce some churn here and there. Turn it back into nearest surface point. But the problem is that this this doesn't really work great because it doesn't line up the normals properly. As you can see, there's a little bit of wobble, but not very much. And I think what we'll need to do in order to get this to really work is to actually extrude these guys. Nope, sorry. Turn off that. Like this. And the reason for that is because we're going to want to turn on shrink wrap again. This vertex set is also going to be in the shrink wrap group. Boom. And then what we'll do is we will get that to be a much more relaxed. It'll be a nice, smoother fit. We'll make this 0.9. Assign it. Now, it didn't really help now, did it? Well, it gave us a lot of flicker. There, that'll fix it a little bit. So here, this is where it's working where I want it to work, but it doesn't seem to really be doing enough elsewhere. You can see that we've got lots of random damage over here just because of the way that these lines end up lining up. We can always just drag that stuff across, so hide these guys, and then we can move these guys. Oh no, it didn't work. Hide. Do I have 2 sets there? I have an extra group. Delete those. Okay, so hide these guys. There we are. And then we'll just move these guys until they aren't going to be in a dumb space. And then we'll turn that back on. Got a little bit of damage. This part and that part. Some of these parts have to be manually changed, I guess. These guys are not in a very good spot, though. I'll move them. Yeah. Well, after I did all that, it didn't end up any better. So I guess we'll just delete that. Oh, that's the wrong one. Delete this. Nope, that's also the wrong one. Delete this and bring this one back in. Doop. And what we'll do is we'll just manually edit this so that it doesn't look quite so wobbly. You know, weebles wobble, but they don't fall down, or something. So one of the places I don't like is right here. What I think I'm going to do is actually pull a lot of these values much, much further out than they currently are. And we're going to turn the drag radius way, way down, like this, yeah. Because basically I just need to make it feel a little bit more natural, like it's being ragged by some kind of huge force rather than just curling randomly. So every place where I pulled it out before, I just want to pull it out way better. I probably could have done this by using a non-soft drag brush, because the drag brush I was using was pretty soft, and it could have just made it less soft, and that would have worked. I forget how to do that though. Here it is. So I was using this smooth, and what I really needed to do was either a sharp or a linear. I think sharp is probably better. Yeah, that's more like what I want. Now we're getting the visuals that I'd like. You can do a lot of things in Blender, you just have to know absolutely everything about Blender. So here you can see that we've got a face that's showing through. We're going to have to deal with that, which we'll do just by dragging it back a little bit and then moving this so that it's not there. That'll cover it. Easy as pie. Now here you can see that our top actually bends backwards quite aggressively. We're going to go ahead and fix that just by dragging this way out. Create a really nice big ripple. Yeah, something like that. And then here, these are all like interfering with the windows, which I kind of want, but I'll have to adjust the windows so that it looks right. Nope. Nope. Come on. Ah, here, these are ripe for adjustments. Come on. Grab the ones I'm trying to grab. There we go. Perfect. Give it a little bit of a ragged edge. There we are. And then here, we'll just do a little bit more to make it look a little bit better. I have no idea whether this is something anybody finds interesting, but it's something that I need to do, and I might as well do it on camera. And I don't actually know whether I'm doing it a good way. All I know is that this is the only way I could think of, so it's the way I'm doing it. Nope. There we are. Okay, you can see that that actually brought it down below the surface a little bit, but that's fine. It doesn't really matter whether or not the surface is perfect, because it's supposed to be a ragged, blobby edge. There we are. That's not too bad. Let's go ahead and assign it back to our parent. And then what we're going to want to do is change our auto smooth values, because what we'd like it to be is we'd like it to look partly ragged and partly fresh. So let's select everything, just everything here, set it up as smooth face, and then we'll just adjust the auto smooth until it feels right. And you can see we've got some pulling here. We may have to actually manually adjust that because it might be, it's like no matter how smooth we make it, that's always going to look ragged. But I think that something around 10, no, here, 16, that might be good. So how do you think that looks for a ragged edge that's been ripped apart? I think that doesn't look too bad, not for a first try. Obviously, it's pretty high poly, but we can use LODs really, really easily on that, so I'm not too worried about that. Let's go in here and start to modify some of these windows to look a little bit more convincing, because they've obviously been ripped from the object. Okay, apparently that window is stuck, so we'll just leave it. Now, I think that this is not an ideal situation because I think that this is too big of a boundary. There's too much intact stuff. I think that if I were going to, the next time I do this, I'm going to take away much more of the body. And now, so basically I would have this ragged edge be more like here instead of over here. And that would let me get a lot further. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone is, people are talking. I've got totally distracted and caught up. Dappa says, oh, so many polygons. Yeah, most of them will fade away pretty quick, so I'm not too worried about that. Seymour the Legionnaire says, greetings beings. And Dappa says, maybe use a translucent material. So the problem is that alpha materials, they are hard to put width in. So this is a massive, massive ship. It's not an exaggeration to say that the player will be viewing it like this, right? The player is going to get up this close. So I can't use an alpha material simply because you would be able to look and see that, oh, there is just a gap in the material right here. It needs to be a physical edge, at least at this range. And that's a major constraint. But I wouldn't worry too much about the polygons. There are a lot of ways of reducing them automatically. We'll be using some planar undivides for the starters. And Cooperino says, how do you go about making levels of detail? Well, there's a couple of ways to do it. There's the fast way, and then there's the right way. I'll show you the fast way in a minute. Just give me a second to finish adjusting these windows. Nope, that's not the window. That's the window. The dumbest thing about this is the windows would not act like this. They don't. That makes no sense as a window, but you know, whatever. As long as it looks decent for now. So the easiest way to create LODs in terms of changing the geometry is just to add in any kind of decimate you like. The subdivide that we're going to be using here, the unsubdivide, is the planar unsubdivide, and it's going to be able to chop down a lot here. So if we take a look here, this has 6,400 faces, and using a very, very small angle limit here, we'll just chop off some of the faces down here, and it'll bring it down to 4,379. Now the problem is that that does not include only quads. There are going to be some n-gons in there, and because of that, it is a little bit difficult to really estimate how heavy that's going to be in Unity. Now, in order to create levels of detail for Unity specifically, you can just go ahead and name them special names, and Unity will automatically handle that. Supifcan says, would sculpting that edge work better than manually modeling it? It's the first thing I've thought of. Yeah, I actually did sculpt it a little bit before you got here, but I changed from sculpting it to manually modifying it. I don't remember why. But you're right. Sculpting it would work better. I remember what I was trying to do. I was trying to get a deform to just apply to it properly, and in the end, I couldn't get it to work. So that's why I stopped modeling it. But I can go back into sculpting it for a little bit here, because what we're going to want to do is do some smoothing just on these faces, because they're a little bit grunky. I don't mind it looking stretched, but I don't want it to look polygonal, you know? Like this is too sharp, for example. What I really like about modeling is that you can do dynamic topo. The problem is that dynamic topo is going to end up producing a lot of extra faces. And then you've got to try and figure out how to get rid of that. So we're not going to do dynamic topo just because it would be too difficult for us to deal with later on. If you know of a trick to retopo real fast, let me know. But aside from downloading the retopo library and then having that still takes forever. It's actually faster to manually model it when you're doing something like this. Right now I'm just cleaning up anything that looks like it's obviously a 3D model instead of damaged material. Anything that's got overly stretched faces that look terrible. Just deal with that a little bit. And then another way to deal with that would be to add in another cut or bevel what we've got. So if we were to go in here and just bevel it, we can get it to be a little bit smoother and a little bit more natural looking, which is what we'll need on certain faces, like that one. The problem is that ragged metal actually is quite ragged, and it's supposed to be. So if we just pull out a couple of faces to try and make it look a little bit more ragged, I think that'll work out. So here, this is something that I'm not sure ever exists in real metal. But if we grab this and then bevel it... Oh, that didn't work. Supercan says... hold on. Dotbow says, small polys with a translucent material on top of your mesh may do it a little less distracted in terms of visual. Supercan says you could use multi-res instead of dynamic topo. It'll preserve topology but subdivide the entire mesh. Well, a good thing about that is that you can automatically export that into LODs, and that's always great. But as for using small polygons with translucent materials on top of the mesh, I can't picture how the edge would look if I was doing that. I mean, if you can, feel free to tell me, show me or whatever, because what I see when I think of that is, all I can think of is that that's gonna end up looking like there is placards hanging off the sides. When the player gets close, they're gonna see the ragged edge, and in order for that to make sense, it has to actually have three-dimensionality. If you've got a way around that, or you think that there's a better way to do it, I am definitely all ears. I just have to be able to picture it in order to be able to model it. All right, so with this as the new object in question, I can delete the old cutout here, put this one back in, and rename it so that it's got the correct name. And move, whoop, knock over my pen, and then move it back into place. There we are. Oh, I forgot to reattach. Join, and then... So that's how it looks when you are looking at it. Now I've put in a decimate just for that edge. I could also take that edge away and use decimate separately and then apply it, and then, that would prevent it from damaging any of the topology of the object, but I don't have any topology to damage. But as you can see, if you adjust this, you can see the damage that it's doing to your model. So if I were to take it up to here, for example, that would start to get it to be pretty ragged, but it would cut the number of faces in half. And that's not too bad. The only problem with it is it doesn't much care for that particular point. That's fine, we'll just get rid of it. And this one too, just... There we are. If we bring this down... Yeah, that's probably a good compromise for a decent level. However, I still have plenty of things I need to model, so what I'm considering doing here is I would like to be able to cut all the way around this, but it doesn't look like that's going to be something that it wants to let me do. Well, we'll just go ahead and do a similar thing to what we did last time. But we'll try some different methods of making it work out. Okay, so it's clear that I'm going to have to do edge selects only. Edge select. Can't really see very well. Can you move away a bit? All right, so... that seems to be the edge we want. Just grab that piece there, and then We'll duplicate that and punch it out. So here is the edge that we've got for this particular object. And unfortunately, because I punched it out, we don't have any concept of the normal. So we're going to have to just manually pull it out here, something like that. And then obviously we can just flip all of these or recalculate all of these. And there we have beginnings of a system, a situation. We can just extrude them down. Nope, that didn't work. Extrude them down and then extrude them back into our mesh like this. And this is where I started last time. Now, a lot of people have made suggestions. One of them was to use alpha transparency ragged edges. I'm going to put that off for now because I can't imagine it looking good. And I also don't have an alpha texture for it, so I'd have to take time to build the alpha texture. But since I can't figure out how it would look good, building the alpha texture seems like it wouldn't work out because you have to know how you want it to look before you can build it. But what we could do is we could do some modeling here. In order to try and get this to work well. We're going to go ahead and cut here and then hide this set of verts. Oh, it doesn't actually, does it? Oh, it does, good. And that way we won't lose that connection here. So what I was thinking is we could try either the grab or the snake here. Now the snake isn't going to work on this one because we have no dynamic topology turned on. We could do a couple different kinds of dynamic topology. I think we're just going to go with raw, awful dynamic topology and see what we can do with it. You can see how it's not very fond of a good response here. It takes a second for us to get it. And I think that that's going to be a problem. So we're going to go ahead and apply a subdivision surface here just to get us started. There we go. And that should allow us to do our snake grab a little bit more freely. Yeah, that's a little bit better. It's not really being very snaky, is it? It's kind of half-assed. That's fine though. Come on. Once we get it broken down into a dynamic topology that makes some kind of sense, I think it'll be fairly easy for us to modify it after that. But it takes a little bit of time to get it ragged enough here. Also, I don't know what dynamic topology level I've got it set on. This might be the highest density it plans to give me, in which case I'll have to change that because obviously this isn't very dense. Yeah, it looks like I have a limit on my settings here. Detail size of 12 pixels. I actually can't remember whether up or down is better. I think it's down is better. Yeah, down is better. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go on the other side here and we're just going to double ragged it. And I'm sorry I ignored you guys for so long. I got distracted and forgot that there were people who might want to know what the heck I was doing or have input on it. What we're going to do after this is we're going to use either grabs or pushes or something similar. But first I've got to get it to be nice and ragged, so that's what we're going to do right now. problem with grab is that it does not modify the topology as far as I know, which means that it wouldn't really be of much help. So I thought for sure that there was a modifier that would let me do this automatically using a noise field. I don't know whether or not I just am misremembering or whether I used to have a plugin that I don't have anymore. You know, just get a fractal edge out of it. You'd think that that would be, let me see, go ahead and see here. Nope, no fractal stuff. All right, so there we have a ragged edge. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and use grab to move that edge around. It's actually hard to do this with the mouse. I usually do my sculpting with the tablet. Okay, that's a little bit big. Just grabbing and pulling to make it a little bit less even. And then what we're going to want to do is grab it and pull it along a different axis so that it will be a little bit wobbly. Supifcan says, is this the fractal thing you were looking for? Where is subdivide fractal? In 2.4 you had it. Yeah, this sounds like it is very familiar. Oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for. All right, so hold on a minute, everybody. We're not going to undo what we've done. But what we are going to do is duplicate what we've done. Duplicate. And move it aside. And then what we're going to just want is the... and did I damage the... Oh, it's just hidden. Unhide. This particular edge is the only thing we care about. So we're going to invert. That didn't work. Hello? Invert. There we are. And delete everything else. And that leaves us with just the edge, right? Where did the edge go? Control I. I don't know what happened. Invert. That edge is fine. We're just going to extrude from that to get ourselves a rough sort of edge like so. We'll flip the direction. I know, we'll just recalculate the direction. And then we're going to go ahead and try that subdivide. Now, see, it's not here. He's doing it a different way. F6 or the last operator. I think I have to do it while I'm in edit mode. Let's try it. Subdivide. There it is. Ah! See, it wasn't available over here. It's only available there. Thanks, you found it. Edit mode, press W. Yep. So, it took me a while, but I figured it out. So we're going to go ahead and increase the number of cuts quite dramatically. I wish that Subdivide had an option for maximum distance or minimum distance between points so that we could subdivide it irregularly. Or into regular pieces by subdividing irregularly, if you see what I mean. Okay, so we've got some fractal going on. I don't know if I can control... So if I tell it to do it along the normal, that just ripples in and out. So really what I want to do is I want to do several passes here. So first we'll do it along the normal. And then we'll hit enter, do it again with a fractal subdivide. And this time it'll be long normal 0. Obviously, we're going to have to do some manipulation of this, but, you know. Oh, did I screw that up? I screwed that up. There we are. Try that again. I hit enter while I was on top of an arrow, and apparently that means that I wanted to trigger the arrow, which wasn't quite right. So now we've got a really, really ragged edge that we just generated in like 10 seconds. And we can just grab the pieces of this edge that aren't quite working for us from a mesh fashion, you know, and just pull them into something that's a little bit less wrong. There's a lot of extra mesh points in here. We could probably do with a an every other delete in this particular region, but I don't know if I want to. Let's go ahead and delete that one. Dissolve the vert. Oh, that dissolved the whole edge away. Is that not a contiguous edge? That might be what the problem is. Yeah, that's fine. For something that we generate fast, later on I'll come up with better ways to do it. Like, I could have just selected the edges that were long first, and then gone, in fact, let's go ahead, we'll do that. Undo. Hello? No? Undo. Thank you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just select the long edges and deselect the short ones. Just so that we don't have a really, really awkward set of... Oh, there we are. Because it was getting super dense in those grooves, and that was really, really bad. So that's what we'll do. Subdivide, and then we'll do it along the normal. And do it with a couple of subdivisions here. There we are. 2, that's fine. I don't think we need it to be quite that strong of an effect. Just bring it down to here. Yeah, it's fine. And then what we'll do is we will select everything. Yoink. Nope, just everything on the outside. What's it doing? Where is it imagining that the inside and outside are connected? Right there. Oh, you know what? I bet I damaged this when I first did the extraction. That's no biggie. What we'll do is we'll just rejoin those. So merge at center and merge at center. There we are. Better. It's not exactly the most aggressive matcher, is it? It's kind of like, maybe those are, you know, points that you care about. Like, just give me all of the points on the edge. Whatever. Alright, is that everything? It looks pretty everything-ish. We'll subdivide it again. This time, not on the normal. We'll give it 2 cuts. There we go. I think that this is still a little strong. Reduce that strength down to 2.5. And then let's take a look at what we got. So when we have it with like this, you can see that we have it as a much more it's actually kind of an interesting edge case, or edge, because we've got some places where it folds out like a skirt and stuff like that, and that's really what I'm looking for. The only problem is that it might not like this part. Let's try it, though. So what we're going to do is pull this in just a touch, and then we're going to extrude and then shrink and pull that in a lot. Like that. All right. So that is the fast way that I wanted to do it when I first got started today. This was my fast idea. This was, I'm going to just go ahead and make it so that it rips real fast. And to be honest, it looks pretty much exactly like I wanted it to. Now this long interior edge is probably too much, but that's fine. We can just adjust it. Basically, that's exactly how I think it should look. Let's go ahead and just move this so that it gets a little bit more. Now the problem with this is that it also doesn't quite line up with the surfaces here, as you can see. I think we can fix that by doing better subdividing before we start to subdivide. If we have a buffer loop between our main loop. But unfortunately right now we don't have the ability to cut because it's such a complicated set of faces. What we're going to do instead is extrude and then pull it back and scale it up. And then we're going to use a just a shrink wrap modifier. That didn't seem to do jack shit. There we are. Ah, I forgot to assign it to a group. Hold on, we got to just create a vertex group here, and this will be a weight of 0.9. That's fine. And then we're going to go back over here and only use it on that vertex group. There we are. And what that'll do is that'll give us a slightly better set of matches, and we can go in and then just modify them manually here. So let's hit apply. And then what we can do is we can pull out these areas where it looks a little bit bad to try and get it to look a little bit more correct. It looks like in this case the shrink wrap really didn't do very well because it's shrink wrapped like a millimeter from where the original line was, but that's okay. We'll just pull it out. Now here we've got some slightly nasty damage, but that should be okay. We should be able to fix it. We just have to decide where we want stuff and massage it into place. It's not that big a deal. It's okay if it punches through the surface. In fact, we kind of want that. Just grab. Okay, I think I'm going to do this point by point. There we are. More or less. There's some badness just built into the original model here because I kind of just hacked it apart. So it's not going to be something we can do perfect, and that's fine because these are just temporary. So it's not a big deal. But that already looks substantially more convincing than it did before. Still, the density of these faces is very limited and on purpose. And that means that we don't have the same sort of bunching and scratching that we had on this side. In order to get that bunching and scratching, what we're going to need to do is to make this something that we stretch and bunch. We can do this using modeling if we get rid of everything else. So if we were to grab this and then invert and then hide, now what we can do is we can go into our sculpt mode. We can't see jack shit, so go back into object mode. Unhide. So grab all of these guys and then increase and then invert. Oh, that's not invert. Then invert and then hide. What the heck? Grab these guys, increase, invert. What? For some reason I keep forgetting that it's Control-I to invert, and then something goes wrong. But that should do it. There we are. So now we can go into sculpt mode, And we can't really see what's going on very well just because there's so much hidden, but we should be able to turn on dynamic topo and pull these elements however we would like them to be. They're not responding. Oh, grab doesn't do the dynamic topo. I forgot about that. That was in fact the whole point. We can use thumb though, right? No, thumb also doesn't use dynamic topo. Snake does. Snake. So we're just gonna make it have a more wobbly set of edges here. Grab, there we are. Why don't I go ahead and increase the radius for this part? We'll just grab a big chunk of it. Decrease. Oh, that's too small. Yep. That's too big. And that one's just right. I can't really see it down there, but that's okay. We're just testing stuff out, so if it's a little bit awkward at first, we're fine. We can live with it. I think I need a smaller brush. Yep. Let's switch over to grab now. Yep. All right, now with grab we can take some of these edges that have popped and shove them back into the surface a little bit. But we need to be careful because we're a little bit too big still. Come on, just grab it and push it in. Might be faster to do this manually using edit mode. Well, if we take a look, the surface here is really pretty awkward, and that's to be expected, I guess. But we'll just drive all of these points into the edge one by one here. Because that's what we want to do. The floating things don't make any sense. Another option would be to use a shrink wrap modifier, which we've done before. But I don't think we need it in this case. Let's go ahead and adjust these out so that we have a little bit of a better set of visuals here. All right, so that's more or less what I think of that. Now we got some very serious silliness in terms of mesh topology, but I don't really care. What I do care about is this edge is ugly, like really bad. So we're gonna just modify it. And you can see the reason it's really bad is because of this nasty topology that I don't care about. I should probably care about it. So we're just gonna do a cut right along, and then we'll drag that cut up and out, and up, and back, and up, and out. There, like that. And that way, when we modify these things, they'll actually be able to be visible. Won't that be nice? And we'll just grab some of these points and drive them into the surface so that we don't have anything floating. There. Not ideal, but the next step is going to be our face system. So let's go and smooth all of our faces. Smooth. And then turn on the auto normal. So we've got a couple of places where this is never going to look good, just due to the number of faces involved. But I think that that will actually go away once we start to do our decimation. So if we do a planar decimation, we should be able to get some of those to go away. It doesn't really want to make any of those go away, does it? I think that I need to do a different style of decimation progression, because the decimation progression I used is obviously ended up creating a lot of superfans, and those are not great. So for a first attempt, that's not too bad, but modifying the blobby edge wasn't any faster. I mean, it took just as long to do it this way than it did the other way. So I'm not sure. I think that the other one looks better, but that's probably just because my subdivisions are so crap. So what we're going to do is just delete it and try again with less crappy subdivisions. So what that means is grabbing the interior face here. You can see that we've got some spare points, but we'll get rid of those. Punch that out. Here we are. Move this into position. Huh. That's not the right set of verts. Come on. Oh, do I have it hidden? I have it hidden. There we are. Duplicate, punch out, grab it, and move it into place. Yep. Now, there was a particular place where this was not actually properly connected. And there it is. It's right there. So we're just going to merge those together so that they're connected properly. Then what we can do is the same thing we did before. We can extrude. This time, however, we're going to extrude a couple of times rather than just once. So the only problem is I can't actually extrude in the way that I'd like. So we're going to scale on everything but the z-axis. Everything but the y-axis? Hold on. Scale on everything but the z-axis. There we are. Just trying to get it so that it's lined up more or less with the correct face. There we are. And then we'll extrude out like this. We can also still scale up on everything but the z-axis if we would like to. There we go. And then what we'll do is we'll start our subdivisions here. First, let's go ahead and recalculate the direction, and then we'll just grab all these faces except for the small ones. Oops. There we are. Go over into line mode, hit W, subdivide, and give us some of that. Doop. And doop. There. That'll give us some skewing along our normals, which is exactly what we want. And then we will extrude out rather than just subdividing again. But in order to do that, we have to reclaim these points that we skipped. Oh, I already did. Okay, good. And we'll extrude out again, like this. Scale up on everything but the z-axis again. There we go. And that then we can subdivide 2 more times on a different set of normals. We've got a bunch of different kinds of corner types that we can create. I don't think it really matters. Maybe it does. You can tell me if you think it does. There. And so this creates a ragged edge like so. And what we can do now is we can take this edge and we can extrude inwards. And once again, we can scale on everything but the z-axis. Nope, that didn't work. Yeah, like that. What we'll want to do probably is, the problem is that when I did that, I ended up screwing up our divot, this divot here. So we're probably better off to do the normal trick again. So let's create some vertex groups, and we will just add these into the vertex group. And then use a quick little shrink wrap. Kaboom, like so. And that will create a relatively decent match. Just massage it a little bit so that it's not quite so bad. And then we'll just apply that. And now we will have a grabbable, blobbable element for creating our outer edge that needs to, look blobby. But let's go ahead and extrude inwards on this part. Unfortunately, it looks like it's not going to like us selecting. It's one of those select resistance edges. If there's a method of subdividing which preserves the selectability of these edges, that's probably what I want to use from now on. Still, it's not too bad. Just got to click a bunch. I might also be able to do it using box select, but it's a little bit ragged, so it's a little bit, yeah, it's not going to work. Actually, that was correct. Okay. Maybe it would work. And since I've determined it would work, I'm not going to do it. Clickety, clickety, clickety. Clickety, 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 clickety. There are definitely faster ways to do this, and I'll find them. But right now I don't know them. Alright, that looks like a pretty complete line. We'll extrude in just a touch. And then we'll extrude in a lot and pull it back. Come on. So you can see we've got some very dense areas just on accident. We could try to reduce their denseness, or we could just say that that's where the damage is particularly complicated. Either way, we're going to want to turn on our auto smoothing. Now you can see that the outside here is very, very smooth and glassy. That's not necessarily bad. It's all in how we want it to look. To be honest, I think that might look fine. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. I don't think we even need to modify anything on the original. All we need to do is add it in and then set up some of this stuff so that there's no bad materials and the face isn't popping, which isn't really that complicated, so it should just take a couple of seconds here. Materials, highlight, assign, and then grab all this interior stuff and make it machinery. Yeah, like that. So there are definitely some areas where we're getting some pop elements, and that's obviously something we want to avoid. So we'll just gently nudge the verts in those places, because those are made out of math. That's where the math got all screwed up. So just by nudging it a tiny bit, the math stops being a deal. Got a little bit of popping here. Once again, just nudge it so the math doesn't perfectly line up. Now in Unity that's not going to be as big a deal because the new lighting systems don't have a problem with the Z-fighting if the two materials have, if they use the same materials and the same normals. But it's better not to risk anything, you know. Let's go ahead and pull this out just so that it looks a little bit more. You can see that we've got some points here and there and everywhere. We're just going to go ahead and grab these and move them. Just to give us that clunky feel. It didn't really work. Come on, do much better than this. There. All right, now I don't think this looks great. There are definitely some places that just aren't exaggerated enough. So what I'd like to do is select the edge again, which we'll do by grabbing these guys and then hitting plus and then deselecting the interior edge. What I really want to do here is increase the amount of noise in this particular edge. I would like to scale them based against their own neighbors. However, as far as I know, there isn't a built-in way to do that. The closest we've got is that we can do a select, checker, deselect. I have to actually pick a face. I forgot about that. Just grab a face then, and then checker, deselect. And what that does is it gives us a checker pattern of faces like this, see? And then we can switch over into individual origins and then scale. And that will scale up those particular faces. Now, when you scale up these faces, it'll end up scaling up on all axes. And we don't really want that. We would like it to only scale up on the x-axis for now. We might change it so that it scales up on the y-axis. Or even scales down on the y-axis. There we are. That'll give us a much more ragged set of edges, see? And that feels a little bit more like what I want it to feel like. So, you know, I can probably do better than this, but I'm not unhappy with it. I don't really like this particular warp here, though. Can I... That'll do. All right. So now that looks a lot better than it did when I left. Let's go ahead and take a look. You see how that looked before? Well, grind, grind, grind. This is how it looks after. Looks like we've got a little bit of a shadow glitch on the outer face here. I know exactly where that is too because I just did it. It's this thing here. So we're just going to move that whole thing inside the face. Screw it, right? All right, well, if any of you have any suggestions on how to make this faster, let me know. You know, how to make these edges faster, because I am all about needing them faster. There was some talk about making them basically the same way you make hair, using alpha textures. I can't picture it in my head, but if you can, feel free to link me to something that shows what it looks like, because just because I can't do it in my head doesn't mean it's not possible. So that is pretty decent. We don't need this anymore. Let's go over and take a look at it in a spaceship. For some reason, Twitch just told me that I had more messages below, but I don't think I do. No, I don't. That was weird. Come on, get your ass in gear. So, one of the reasons I was just kind of goofing off with this is that it's a prototype. I'm just, this is not an actual damage segment, because there's not really much call for a damage segment that just is a triangle. But it makes for good practice to see how this stuff looks and feels. Ah! I just smashed into it and died. The lack of debris is definitely an issue. I will need to come up with a good way to render debris. I'm thinking about using the instance mesh method and then just placing them sort of randomly, sort of like how particles do it. It looks like we got some damage right there. Is that because the faces are bad and Unity does not know how to fix them? I bet it is. That's the wrong one. I'm pretty sure that what we've got is a face that Unity can't handle. It's up here next to this window on this blue area. Here. These? These faces? Really? This is the face it can't handle? This one right here? It doesn't know how to deal with that face? Okay. I mean, I guess I can tell it to cut. That didn't work. Why isn't it cutting? Huh. This is strange. Well, what I can do is I can just delete this face and then manually recreate it. I don't know why the cut wasn't working though. That's really strange. Can you understand that face now, Unity? It'll take a while for you to figure it out. Looks like there's another damaged face over here. That's interesting. I wouldn't think that they would have... that's just shadows. That's much easier. I don't know why Unity couldn't figure that face out. Apparently its code is not great. So I think that the subdivide with Ripple is really a good idea, but it is difficult for me to do it in a way that makes the system look good because I have to subdivide everything to keep the loops intact for modeling the backside as well as the front side. I mean, you know, the ragged edge as well as the attached edge. But if I do that, then the subdivision will end up rippling the base anchor line, which is bad. And that's obviously dumb, that line there. So let's fix that. Took some shortcuts and it did not pay off. So I have actually forgotten how to do the modifier that I need to do, which is the mesh index thing, the what do you call it? The instance mesh thing. I've forgotten how to do that. Let me just take a quick look. I think I've got it bookmarked. Instance mesh, Cartesian to spherical, built-in shaders, the book of shaders. If I saved it, I didn't save it here, and that's not any good. What a shame. All right. Did I save it in this set? I'll look later. I'll figure it out later on my own, unless any of you know how to do that stuff. It's pretty new, and I haven't got it memorized. But basically, I'm going to be drawing a lot of meshes for debris, like these windows, for example, and I'm going to need to be able to place them really, really rapidly and aggressively. And I think what I want to do is have a system where I can have an edge that I specify, some mesh that's just a a basic edge, and then I can have it automatically generate debris dense near the edge and then fading off as it gets further away, and then assign debris meshes to it, so I could specify, window and stuff like that. I don't think that would be difficult. I can think it through entirely. I just have to figure out how to do that particular function, because it's a function that I'm not real familiar with. Another thing I need to do is come up with the interiors for this, which is the rooms that would be stacked up in there. The problem with that, of course, is that I would have to model interior rooms to be able to do it, and I don't really feel like doing that. Now, in the past, I have done some interior room modeling, just using boxes that I cut. I don't believe that any of those remain in this project, but I can certainly do them again. It was very straightforward, so let's go ahead and do exactly that. We're going to go and create a cube, and this cube is going to be, yoink, it's going to be our room surface, and we're basically going to come up with like strips of rooms, maybe 10 rooms long. So we'll just scale this appropriately. There, like that, right? Or maybe like that. And we're going to want to make them deeper than that. Like that. The other thing we're going to need to do is to do some cutting, because otherwise they will look really bad. So we'll do that. And now that that circle, or that system has been built, we can start to build room templates, which are just things that vaguely resemble rooms, right? And we're going to want to float them a little bit low or a little bit high. And then underneath, we're going to want to have a kind of an area where the pipes are. Nope, screwed that up. So this is very, very basic. We're just gonna swoop, and then we're going to duplicate it and move it. Swoop. And then maybe bring these together. So these are our cutouts. We're going to be taking the inverse of these. So with that in mind, let's just go ahead and create some room-like shapes here. So just like this, and this, and this, and then over here, right? And we'll create some of these that are slightly different shapes, and maybe a slightly different height. And then we're going to also need some hallways. So we'll bring this in and we'll make it into a hallway, which will make this size. And make sure that it's long enough. Oh, that's way too long. Yeah, something like that, right? And what we can do is we can just cut it out of this cube. So we can take this cube here, go over to modifiers, hit ourselves up with a Boolean, select the other object, clunk, and then do a difference. And then we hit apply, and we just grab this and move it away. And you can see that what we've got is a nice little set of rooms carved out of our face. Now, the problem with this set of rooms is that they are all flat. We're going to want to deal with that in a second here. But we also have made this too deep, so we're just going to grab all of these elements and pull them like so. Because the trick here is that we're going to be creating an n-dimensional array of these. Not two-dimensional, maybe. Or maybe three. I'm not really sure. Either way, we're going to do an array, and a relative axis offset's fine. I'll just do a stack of it 3 deep, hit apply, and then do an array. And then we're going to want to do it one on a different axis, make that maybe 3 deep. Hit apply, and then we'll do an array on a different axis. And make that like 6 deep. And then hit apply. And then the last thing we're going to want to do is create another cube and slice this thing on a weird angle. Because right now, the surface is entirely flat, and that's just no good. So we're going to just carve it out on an angle like this. So add modifier. Well, let's go ahead and duplicate this and move it aside. We'll call this raw rooms. And then here, we're going to carve this using another Boolean modifier. And once again, it's going to be the difference. And this can be deleted. And there we go. We have a set of rooms. As you can see, it's got its unusual characteristics. It looks like we have a little bit of damage to it here and there. I don't know if you can see that, but this area here didn't actually get deleted, and it got some weird-ass hanger-on point. But these are not, not too bad. The problem is that it didn't actually fill in the gaps. These are supposed to be filled in when you do a Boolean, and they didn't. They got just chopped and left open. So I guess we'll undo. Undo! So if we grab this guy and do... Well, an intersect might be better, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because maybe that will actually create the visual that we need. Okay, so hold on, I can't see what's going on. So in this case, what we're doing is we're going to keep the things that are inside. So if we hit apply, we only have the things that were inside. And if we pull this out and we take a look, again, it didn't close off the faces. It's leaving these open faces that don't make any sense. And I thought that Blender's Boolean operator was smarter than that. Ah, there we are. I just have to switch it over to carve. That's fine. I can live with that. So here you can see our room setup. Now you can also see that the room setup has this crease down the middle, which I don't like. So we're going to go ahead and switch it to difference again and see whether or not we can get that crease to go away. Oh, and it looks like that crease is pretty persistent. I'm not sure what's going on there. Is that just a nasty face that it solved wrong? I think it's just a nasty face that it solved wrong. Let's go ahead and try and fix that nasty face. So either I can't get any faces or the faces I get are garbage. Great. I really wish it would solve for faces using quads. So I think what happens is that crease is actually an intersection point between two of the meshes, because all of those meshes had faces in weird places. I can fix that, actually. Go ahead and fix that. See how we've got all of these 3 deep faces here? What we're going to do is we're just going to cut all the faces from in between them off and merge them together. Oh, except for it's not... Let's go ahead and just do a merge. Merge. No, sorry, a remove doubles. Remove doubles. And I think that will help. I get no guarantees, but I think that'll help. Boom. Drag it out, take a look. Yeah, that helped. Good. Figured it out, got it all working. Oh wait, no I didn't. It didn't actually cut. Try that again. Cut, please. What the hell? Whoa, why is this suddenly not working? Is it seriously not working because I merged some of those verts and now they're all confused? And it must be, because that's all I can see for, you know, why it would be like this. Well, let's revert back. If I can delete the nasty backsides of each of these, I think that that might work. Because I don't think the nasty backsides are adding anything. So we'll just select this entire face here. And delete all of those verts. Not all those verts, all those faces. And we'll do the same thing over and over and over and over and over. The problem is I don't know which of them is... Okay, so the first one here... Okay, I'm just checking to see. Unfortunately, that's the only set of faces I can delete without doing trickery. But I guess I can do some trickery. Oh, sorry. Control L, and grab it and pull it out. And then delete the back faces. And then... Oop, wrong one. Control L, and then drag it out. And then delete the back faces. And then put these guys back. There we are. So now there's no back faces to them, and hopefully it will work. Nope. Why isn't it? Why did it stop working? That is really frigging weird. Okay, so that's with B-Mesh, and this is with Carve. Oh, Carve doesn't like it anymore. Cannot... Okay, so it actually says right there, you're an idiot. So, okay, I'll just make that, keep that in mind. The problem is that B-Mesh doesn't appear to actually close off any of the faces. Which means I'd have to do a lot of manual work to close them off, and that's annoying. God damn, look at all these faces that it wants. We'll just leave it like this for now. We'll close off the faces later, I guess. But the point is that these can be dropped in on our surface here. Obviously, they're much too large, but that's not a big deal. We'll just shrink it down. Oh, it's actually upside down. So rotate Z 180. Rotate Y 180. Oh, rotate X 180. One of those. Or we could just scale Z -1, I suppose. And basically, we're just trying to fit them in a place where they're visible and not obviously dumb. We'll need a lot more sizes in the long run, but I think you get the idea. I think that if I scale these up on the z-axis, they'll work with just 2. But that's not all the ones we need, because we also need it to be on the other side. So, I might need to use some distortion to create something that actually works, because these are kind of poking out of the surface a little bit more than I want them to. Still, I could probably just ease them in for the sake of testing. Exciting stuff, I'm sure you agree. So you can see that what I'm going to need to do is adjust the exact parameters of these until they fit, and then figure out what sort of good modular elements I can use to fit them in the future semi-automatically. But just for starters, this has to go, so we'll just turn on enable this, and then just manually drag everything down a little bit until it's inside, just to make sure that it doesn't poke out of the edge there. Monk of Time says, I made it. How much longer are you going? As usual, you've made it just in time to watch me stop. I got maybe 20 minutes left. I'm just going to be testing out these mock-ups for the interior rooms and seeing whether or not they work. So we're going to go ahead and select these guys and then shrink them on their own personal y-axes until they fit inside. And we're just going to try and make it so that they are reasonable. Yeah, that's probably decent enough. The same with this guy. Bring him in. That needs to be adjusted. There we go. And then we'll just manually, again, grab this edge here and tell it to get lost. And now we have a bunch of pseudo rooms just to see how it feels. And we'll see how that looks over here in Unity. Hello? They didn't seem to import quite right, did they? Did they show up in the wrong spot? Where are they? They should be named Cube, right? No, those are different. Well, are these them? These can't be them. These are named Cube, but not Cube Cell. I may have just made it so that this is detached from the object, and I'll need to drop a new call ship debris exteriors into the game world in order to see them. So here it is, this ragged little piece of junk. And these are them, but you can see that they are really in a weird spot. Are they all flipped on an axis that they're not supposed to be? Is that what's going on here? Well, let's go ahead and flip them around and see whether or not we can get them looking right. Oh, that's not the right one. Yeah, so flipped on the y-axis for some reason. It's an odd issue. No. Do I need to flip them on more axes? No, not that one. You know what? Let's go back over here and merge all of these guys into one blob. Hello. There we go. And I think that half of them have inside-out faces now, but I guess that probably doesn't matter given that they don't have front faces anyway. Yoop. There we go. Monk of Time says it's too bad he has class on Wednesdays. Yeah, well, it's better than not having class on Wednesdays. I wouldn't want to skip class to watch some random dude try and create debris. So. This is odd. They're still in the wrong spot. That's really weird. I'm going to manually tuck them in for now. We'll work on that later. This should be good enough to at least give us an idea, but I don't know why they drifted from true. That's really weird. Usually they import just fine. And now I'm really hungry. And these all imported with wonky rotations. That's very strange. So anyway, these two sets of debris, we can just consider them as a single blob of debris, right? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at them in our ship. Oh, I'm in play mode. Fucking hell, I'm an idiot. So in case you're wondering why none of that was working, it was because I was in play mode. What a waste of everybody's time that was. It's still wrong. What's up with this? Okay, so I think what the problem is that this thing is offset awkwardly from what's supposed to be its base. So we're going to go ahead and apply location to both of those. We'll apply rotation and scaling as well. And then we're going to just drag these into the same situation. Come on, give me something decent here. Monk of Time says he likes watching me code, which is nice. Okay. Well, it's in the right position now, finally. Let's go ahead and grab all this junk. In fact, what we'll do is we'll just delete the rest of this junk, or move this junk out. It looks like some of these are quite large. That's fine. There we are. Grab these, move them out into their own little world. We'll actually go ahead and move all of them into this cube mesh. Boom. And now this cube mesh we can move over or scale up to the correct size for exploration, which I believe is 30, 30, 30. And then what we'll do, that might be too large. Try 20, 20, 20. What we'll do is drag it down and then duplicate it. And then we're going to want to flip that on the Y-X, one of those axes, like so. And then we're going to want to grab both of those and grab them both and flip them both on another axis. And drag that up. until they're in contact. Like that. Obviously, the debris is not set up correctly for that particular operation, so we'll just adjust the debris a little bit. Grab it. More or less. Now let's go ahead and take a look in our ship. There you are. All right, so this is sort of how it's supposed to look. It's not perfect for a lot of reasons, but the basic idea is that the inside of these is supposed to be filled with details on the walls. And what I may end up doing is using a combination of real meshes and LOD cube map meshes to try and fake it, because obviously showing all of these rooms in real time would be pretty expensive. But you can see how this would feel pretty cool, right? I think that would feel pretty nice, pretty neat. These are an awful approximation, though. I really need to get some decent room stand-ins. Can't do it the way I was trying to do it, though, just because for some reason it doesn't Boolean right. Yeah, this feels pretty decent. For a first try that I just slapped together, it's not bad at all. Needs a lot of debris work, and obviously the rooms need to look better than this. I'm not sure that that carving these rooms out on an angle is even noticeable. It may be that I can just go with a standard angle for all rooms and just be like, screw it, you know, it's enough that it's not flat, you know, enough that it's not square and orthogonal, because you know, if the room is too far forward or too far back, it's fine. So I may just create a lot of rooms that have a cut edge instead of a flat front, and then just call that, you know, every room that you're ever going to need is going to have that same cut edge, and it's just a matter of moving it a little bit to make it not exactly duplicate. Yeah, I think that'll work. But that'll work some other time. My voice is gone, and I actually have to do about 3 more hours of voice recording tonight, so I'm going to stop now-ish. If you've got any questions, I'll answer them in the chat. But I need to stop destroying my voice when I've got too much work to do later on with it. All right, thanks for stopping by. Oh, Monk of Time says, how did you get the torn look on the edge of the ship exterior? Go watch from the beginning. The answer is I tried a bunch of different things. But that's covered in the beginning of this stream. And since the stream is over, you can watch and see what I did. But I did a combination of subdividing and using sculpting tools with no surface topology changes and sculpting tools with surface topology changes. I didn't find a really great solution, but I found a bunch of half solutions. I'll see you around, guys. I'll be back on Sunday.